Yo, what's good, guys? Today we have expats share their American trauma after living abroad. Now, listen, I'm really curious on what they have to say because, like, the way they say trauma, I'm like, yo, is it really that traumatic to live here? Like, I know we can be a little crazy at times, but come on now, like, trauma. Hey, I just really want to see what these people have to say. So let's run it.
It's very difficult for Americans who've never left the country or lived outside the country to understand just how insane this country is. I mean,
Nah, that's very true. Honestly, that is extremely true. Just because, like, I'll even use myself as an example. Before this whole YouTube thing, like, and we started reacting to videos along this sort, like, I never realized how certain things are insane and crazy and just quite weird. Like, and I still don't quite, I think, fully grasp it. Like, I understand it to a degree, but, like, I've never experienced anything else. So it's hard for me to say, oh, I think it's truly insane when I know no different. So there's definitely a lot of truth to that. And, like, a lot of Americans don't even know.
we kind of know, and we on this network remind everyone that it doesn't have to be this way, that people don't live like this. But now Americans living abroad, American expats in different countries are taking to TikTok to air all of the ways that where they live is incredibly different, and all the ways that the almost PTSD or sort of remnants of what it was like to live in the United States, they're carrying that with them into their new homelands.
Okay, I don't like the way she says PTSD, though. Like, I don't view American ways of life as, like, something to be traumatized by. Is what I was trying to say. Like, I definitely agree there are parts of, the US that we need to fix, right? There's parts of our society that, should be, say, curved and, addressed a little better. But, like, I also think there's a lot of good here too. So that's why I'm like, I don't know if you can really, like, someone leaving a war-torn country should say they have PTSD, not somebody who just don't agree with how certain things are done in their country. You get what I'm trying to say? Like, I don't know. I just don't like the wording there. I disagree with that to a degree.
So
Even
let's
though I kind of understand what she's trying to say.
first start with the video that started this trend back in 2021. Take a look.
If you're an American currently living abroad, what is one time that made you realize that America really messed you up? I'll go first. I live in Warsaw, Poland now, but I always stay in touch with what's happening in the US, and I happened to hear about that Las Vegas shooting when someone opened fire on a bunch of concert goers, and it was very tragic news. But that day, I also went to the movies, so I was already in a kind of weird mental state, and when I left the movies, I got on the tram again in Warsaw, and I saw this guy kind of being sketchy and acting weird in the last seat. And I kept eyeing him the whole time, and he had his jacket open and he was holding something inside. He was hiding it. And I thought, my first American thought was, it's a gun or a knife or some kind of weapon, and I need to move away as soon as possible. So I kept looking at him the whole ride, and then he takes it out, and it was a beer can. He was sipping it and hiding it during the tram ride. That's what happens in Poland. Not guns, not knives.
No. that is funny. But, like, isn't that, like, okay, the gun might be more of an American thing, but, like, I'd imagine, right, even countries that don't have guns, right, they see some guy holding something in their, like, jacket and acting weird. Like, aren't you gonna think in your head, like, yo, has this guy got a knife? What's he trying to do? Like, I would, personally. I'd be thinking, like, I'm gonna pack up a little bit. I want some space. I want to, like, see if I need to, like, get ready to defend myself. Like, I need to know what's going on. Like, I don't know if, is that an American thing? Honestly, that's crazy.
And I started crying and laughing at the same time, because that's when I realized, wow, that's messed up.
Right, that's messed up. She immediately feared for her life. Just guy sipping on a beer. I didn't think that's necessarily what he was going to reveal out of his jacket. Have you been on public transportation?
Like, the way, like, I can understand the gun part, right? Like, I can understand, hey, America, there's guns about, right? A lot of people concealed carry, a lot of people, illegally own guns. Like, I can understand that part. But, like, I feel like any guy acting sketchy in public transportation, holding something in his jacket, I don't care if you're in fucking the most safe country in the world, you're gonna back up. You're gonna be like, what's going on?
In the United States, right? Sometimes it's something worse, a lot worse than beer. But a similar experience to an American living in Australia in terms of their fear of gun violence. Take a look.
One of my first couple of weeks here, it was May of 2023, and I don't know why exactly, but some local event thing was shooting off fireworks. In the distance I hear, if you're an American,
you think guns.
You sit up straight, you start looking around, and you wait to hear more. Do you hear more fireworks? Or do you hear screams? Because that sound is either gunfire or fireworks. And I realized that conditioning in me, it still happens.
So there he is, an expat in Australia, getting
Now that one, I can't argue with. That one is true. Now, when I hear gunshots, I don't think of fear, right? Now, I used to live in the country, so like I was used to hearing gunshots when I lived out there because there's a lot of hunters, people shoot guns for fun. So like when I hear gunshots, I'm like, oh, someone's firing their gun. I'm not scared, but that also depends on, I feel like, where you live and where you've grown up. Like, so I can definitely empathize with this one, right? Like where I live now, I hear gunshots on the regular. If you follow, I normally film these videos at nighttime, but, there are times when I'm filming during the day, and, like, if you follow this channel enough, at some point, you'll probably hear gunshots in the background. Now, in my case, I live close to where the police like to test their guns. So, again, it's not necessarily a scary thing, but I hear gunshots at least every week. Like, it's a real thing. So that one... And especially when I first moved here, though, I did, like, shut up and just key in for a second and be like, all right, what's going on? But it's definitely a real thing. So that one I can relate to a little bit more.
Pretty emotional about the fact that he was, thinking that this could be gunshots. I mean, I'm also thinking of John veterans, American vets who've been to war, who are also, sort of traumatized, of course, by that, and have PTSD. And so when they hear fireworks, are also thinking, what is this? Are these bombs? Are these guns? Is it gunshots, and et cetera? So it's not just gun violence, though, but thoughts on that.
Yeah, look, it's easy to forget. We report on a lot of these mass shootings at schools, at malls, and all that stuff, at bars, in Vegas, at concerts, churches, everywhere. And eventually the media moves on. But it leaves an entire community, the direct people who are affected by it, those who are worried that they're going to get a call that a loved one is in danger. And those things are scattered across the country, an ever-growing list of those sorts of experiences. And I love that the guy made the video, and it's so raw. I can only imagine how he would be attacked by conservatives for daring to...
No. Listen. This is where I don't like it, because they're trying to be biased here. Like, now I don't support either side, but I don't care if you, say for me, I don't think guns should be banned. I think they should be regulated so they make sure idiots don't get guns, but I don't think, no civilians should not be allowed to own guns. I think that's completely unreasonable. But even someone who does support the private ownership of guns, someone who, has and will own guns, it can completely understand and empathize why people would be concerned. Nobody who is in their right mind is going to be attacking that guy. And if they are, then they can go fuck themselves. Like, what? No.
care about needless violence.
Right.
Like the sort of conservatives who believe that they're the ones who really get what's going on. Everyone else is sheep, but they have been lulled into not caring about constant massacres. Like, they have accepted that these massacres happen.
Okay, and also let me say this. Nobody, and I fully believe this, outside of, like, direct family members would top this. But, like, as far as the general public goes, that aren't, like, directly attached, I don't think anybody's gonna be more angry or care more about, say, the gun violence and be more angry about it than the responsible gun owners who are looking at this shit and being like, these fucking idiots are making us all look bad. Like, nobody who actually owns a gun legally and, you know, is responsible with it is happy about this shit either. And as far as, like, you know, I'll admit to a degree, but I don't think that's just, like, say, people who own guns, but America as a whole, we have become numb to the gun violence in a way because, you know, you see it so much in the news. So it's like, there's definitely some truth to what he's saying in that aspect, but I don't like how he's trying to push this narrative that anyone who supports owning guns don't care about the gun violence. Like, no, bro, that's just not true.
They don't believe that anything should be done about it, and they think that that is the sane response.
And nobody is saying, at least anybody who I've seen. Now, if somebody is saying that nothing should be done about it, I haven't seen it. But nobody who I've seen has said that nothing should be done. Again, I'm somebody who supports having more gun control and ensuring idiots don't get guns and having better wait periods on how long it takes to get guns and making sure that some psycho dude who his girlfriend broke up with him doesn't go and buy a gun the next day. Like, anybody in their right mind is gonna support that. Like, no, bro, no.
To this bloodshed.
Yeah, and the fact that their countries have been issuing travel warnings.
I'm calling it now. This video in the comments, I'm either gonna have a lot of support because people are gonna understand what I'm trying to say, or it's gonna be another one of those things where I think I'm getting what I'm trying to say across well, but I'm gonna look at the comments and realize that I must have screwed up because nobody's getting what I'm trying to say.
Warnings to the United States because of the amount of gun violence that we have. We're not making, I mean, this is insane. We're not making this up. It's not in our heads. Like, and part of, look, I actually think that gun violence is one of a very good reason to leave this country. A very good reason. As, you know, the parent of a little baby who's gonna grow up and go to school, like, no, I don't want that. And you could say, oh, you live in a blue state. You can say there's stronger gun laws. That's not necessarily true. That's not gonna save you. You know, people, like, we have open.
That is definitely true, though. Like, in certain states, they definitely have stronger gun laws. And yes, they have open borders, which is true to a degree. But, like, well, it's not even true to a degree. It's just true. But, like, at the end of the day, if you're going to get a gun and you really want to shoot somebody, I personally feel that's possible anywhere if you really want to. From the moment guns were invented. Now, you can say it's harder in certain places, and that's good, but it's still possible. If some psychopath really wants to shoot someone up and they want to do it in, let's say, the UK or Australia or wherever, if you put your mind to something, you're going to do it. Like, if you really want to do it. So, even though I do agree it's far too easy, but there's definitely, say, it's a lot harder to get a gun in fucking Maryland than it is fucking Texas. Like, it is. I don't care what nobody says. It's far harder.
Borders.
I said Maryland. It's Maryland, but still.
Like a wall between states that have, lax gun laws and my state. But that's not going to happen. So it goes, though, beyond just gun violence. This is a great.
Yo, I'm sorry for pausing this so much, but you notice how it says get progressive news straight to your. You notice how, like, this is what I be talking about when I say, like, all the news sources are so biased, and you'll see the same thing from the conservatives. Like, you can see how biased this stuff is.
great account from someone who's living in the UK and talking about ambulances and her hesitancy to call an ambulance. Take a look.
So I moved to the UK about 10 years ago for university, and literally my very first night there, I was fresh off the plane. It was freshers night, which is like the whole first week of university in the UK. Okay, you like go out drinking at like different bars or whatever. And we went out drinking, and this one girl that I was with got so drunk that on the way back home to our student accommodation, she was like, oh, I need to sit down. And she sat down and she just like passed out, and we could not wake her up. Like the girl was just like dead to the world, it seemed like. And immediately the people I was with was like, we need to call an ambulance. And being an American, I was like, we cannot call an ambulance. Like I had just met this girl. I had no idea if she could afford an ambulance. They called an ambulance. The ambulance came. They like checked her out like she was, you know, alive or whatever. And they took her to the hospital. And like they brought me home. They sat me down and they were like,
I mean, hey, say what you, okay, time out. All right, because I see where she's going with this and I completely agree. But girl partied so hard she had to go to a Yo, what's that say about y'all UK people? God damn.
What are you freaking out about? And I explained what I was so worried about. And they were like, ambulances are free. Hospitals are free. What is wrong with you? And like, I hadn't realized until that point that healthcare in the UK was completely free.
That's just devastating to me. I mean, I can't say that I have worried about calling 911 or an ambulance on somebody. I mean, I think I have that I would say I'd have that privilege where I would.
I definitely have. Like, I've been in those situations where it's like, I don't want to go to the hospital. That's expensive. Or I don't want to send somebody to the hospital. Can they even cover that? Do they even have insurance? Like, so that one I can relate to on such a stronger level. And I fully believe that, you know, one of the main answers to fixing a lot of the issues we have here is fixing our healthcare system. Even though, believe it or not, it's working fine. It's doing exactly what it's designed to do. But we need to revamp it and change it so where, you know, people are getting the help they need. And not just with, you know, physical health issues, but with the mental health too. Because, like, we want to go back to the gun violence. If you go and, you know, you have these mental health things in place, that bullied kid gets help before the kid freaks out. And, you know, I find that very important too, along with making sure that that bullied kid isn't able to get his hands on a gun in the first place. Like, I mean, so the healthcare system being fixed, in my opinion, would fix a lot more things just as a side effect.
Call an ambulance. I would call like the fire department or whomever, a hospital. But the fact that was her immediate reaction. I mean, maybe, John, my first reaction would be, let's get an Uber.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's weird. I've had that conversation. Like, I've been a part of that conversation back at college, you know, like a million years ago. It's probably even more expensive now than it was then. But yeah, that's a very real concern. And not just the general healthcare thing, but specifically the ambulance. I know everybody thought like it was actually kind of a deterrent sometimes to going harder, because you knew that would financially break you if you needed to call that. And that's, oh my God, it's such a weird way to live. And again, it's another thing that we have just been trained to accept as normal.
This part I agree. This part I actually have to agree. Right? Like, that's one of the things where I was saying earlier, like, you know, we definitely have our flaws here, and this one is definitely one of them that you guys have will control.
Other advanced countries can do better, but so many of us have no expectation that our country should ever be as good as them.
Yeah, there's two more, but this one I really, really like. So here is someone talking about the criminal justice system and just like a fun little, like, you know, thought exercise that I think a lot of Americans, we all engage in. Take a look.
Let's see it.
I'm an American. I've been living in Europe for about 10 years. I first moved here when I was 23. I moved to Paris without knowing a soul. I had this French boyfriend. I remember there was one time, I think I was with his family, and I said something like, oh, if I could choose any meal for my last meal when if I'm ever on death row, this is the meal I would choose. Like, what would you
I've thought of this before. I've thought about this before.
choose? And it was like, no one had ever had this thought experiment before. In fact, my boyfriend turned to me and he was like, that's the most American sentence I've ever heard. And I totally didn't get why. I had no concept that the death penalty just did not exist anymore in other places.
Yeah.
Even the death penalty, though, that's more state-based. That is definitely more state-based. And believe it or not, time for me to piss people off. It has its place. Like, I'm sorry, but if there's a fucking convicted predator, I want that motherfucker shot. Like, prison ain't enough. Like, no, stop wasting resources. Screw that guy. We're serial killers. Like, get rid of them. Like, for very extreme circumstances, I think it's used too much, but it's got its place. I'm sorry, but it does. But that's definitely a thought I've had. I always thought to myself I'd pick, like, some, like, crazy seasonal, like, hard to find thing, so, like, it would buy me more time. That's what I always thought I'd do. But I want to pass the question to you. If you had the death penalty, what would your last meal be? Also, my other issue with, like, say why I say it's used too much is, like, you need to know, if you're really going to put someone to death, you need to know without a shadow of a doubt that it was them. And if you don't have that, like, to the nines, then no.
Except, haven't you seen The Green Mile? Come on, people. Oscar nominated. Probably a lot of winners as well. Anyway, yeah, The Last Meal on Death Row is very morbidly specific to the United States. Very specific. But the idea of a last meal on Earth, that I think everyone has thought about.
Yeah, I do feel like I get there.
What is the last meal on Earth, though? No death penalty. Like, what's the last thing you'd want to eat? That's a good question, man. I don't know. I gotta go with, like, either, like, a nice pizza or, like, a juicy burger. I don't know. Maybe a nice steak. Like, something like that. That'd be, like, my top three. It'd be hard to choose between them. But what would your last meal be on Earth?
Not having to think about incarceration the way that we do and capital punishment and all that, but, like, free your mind creatively. Like, you've never thought about the last whatever you would do. There are other ways to die than lethal injection. Start to plan ahead.
Facts.
You never know.
No, but it is true, though. It's like an incredible, like, you do get a last meal. Like, that's something that, you know, people who are about to be put to death by the state, which, again, what are we, one of 3 countries that still does this? Like Iran, some, like, Saudi Arabia, I think, and maybe that's about it. Maybe one of, like, 6 or maybe, I forgot.
It's actually kind of amazing that they still do that. I know that in Texas they tried to, like, severely limit that last year, but, like, considering how easy it is for Republican politicians to say, you know, prisoners are cockroaches, they don't deserve any of your empathy, it's weird that they still give them any kind of special meal.
I mean, let's not even get started, like, on the entire, like, remember, you know, the idea that, like, this is my favorite, that, like, that fetuses or that zygotes can feel pain, right, before, like, death, you know? And it's just like, what about the actual people you're putting to death in the most horrific ways who definitely, absolutely can feel the pain of a lethal injection? No, they don't.
Now, I disagree with that. There's a lot worse ways to die than a lethal injection. I'd rather have the, like, you know, bye-bye shot than get in a, like, tragic car accident, falling off of a cliff and getting crushed, or getting fucking ran over by a semi, or getting attacked by some crazy puma. Like, no, there's a lot worse ways to die. I guarantee you.
I don't care. My thoughts on this, John, are that when I was living in Argentina, because I have to mention I was living in Argentina, I thought it was fascinating that when we would protest, so I'd go to, like, different street marches, there were no cops. Now, it was because of the president who was in power at the time, who was more left-leaning, but because there had been so much police brutality against protesters in years prior, they had a no police at protesters rule. They were around, but they were not swarming us, cordoning us. Like, we would stop traffic, like, protests and strikes regularly stop traffic in Buenos Aires, and they would be allowed to do that because there was, like, this "we're not going to crack skulls" policy, and that was like.
See, that I agree with. Okay, I paused their face at the perfect time. That I agree with to a degree. I think that cops definitely need to be there on hand just in case protests turn violent. Like, they need to definitely be there, but, like, I also agree. Like, cops trying to fight with the protesters and all that, like, that is, like, let people, you know, state their piece, like, especially if they're doing it peacefully, but, like, cops should be there just in case things get crazy, you know?
fascinating. I've never felt more free being part of a protest than when I was there in Argentina. To say nothing of like so many things like last minute plans, your life not being based around your work. In other countries, people are so much chiller.
I agree with that.
It's not, you never open
I do agree with that. Like, you know, life not being based around your work for a lot of people is a lot better. So, like, that's what I mean when I say we certainly have our flaws. We certainly have our flaws. And I don't think anyone who has at least heard about things in other countries wouldn't say we don't have our flaws.
Conversation with, hey, what do you do?
But I think every single country has flaws, though. Like, from your country, right? You watching this video. I'm talking to you, Steven. Like, I'm sure that you would say, yeah, I wish my country didn't do this. I wish this wasn't a thing. Like, I guarantee you every country has their flaws. It's just, for one, I think people like to put Americans' flaws further out there because Americans tend to have a habit of not seeing them or making excuses for them. So I think that's probably why. But there's definitely flaws.
It's like, what do you do? What do you mean? I breathe air, I eat food, get off my sack.
Yeah, I've never had a problem with that. I think a person's like chosen career is a big part of their life. I don't think it has to be unhealthy, but yeah, it's been forever since I spent significant time abroad, so it's hard for me to even remember. But yeah, the food culture very different. Obviously, work-life balance very different. There's a lot of bad stuff about like TikTok and everything, but I like this trend.
Oh, I love. I mean, my latest thing is like moms and dads who are raising kids abroad, and they're comparing how like baby friendly and kid friendly other countries are compared.
Should I watch that? Should I watch that video? Let me know in the comments.
To this country, and I'm like, thank you. Yes, there should be beer in the park. Hello. But I also think it's really interesting to, like, Americans. Do you think that like Trump voters know we're not the greatest country? Do you think like deep down?
Come on. See, again, with this biased bullshit, though. And this is an issue with, since she wants to call out Trump voters, this is an issue with the Trump voters, too. Don't get it twisted. Like, this is why I say both sides fucking suck. Look at this biased bullshit she's trying to shove down people's throats. Oh, yeah, do you think Trump, you're trying to stir the pot and get people arguing with each other. Like, that's what they're trying to do, instead of just, hey, this isn't cool. This is the difference. This is why. No, they want to shove their, like, and you can say, hey, listen, in my opinion, but then, like, they try to shove that in there without even giving you a preface, like, and that's a lot of why Americans are infighting so much. I pray this video goes viral to people outside of America, and they can, like, I hope they can, even though they may disagree with me on certain things I say, which is welcome, like, hey, you can disagree with me all you want. You have your right to disagree with me on certain subjects. But I hope y'all can see what I'm trying to say when I say, look how biased people try to shove things. And we can even go to find videos of the other side doing the same thing. Like, no side is not guilty of this, which is why South Park said it best years ago. Giant douche or a turd sandwich.
Down, they know, or they've been trained to like the trash and the violence and the awfulness and the sickness and the expensive ambulance rides, because it's like they've been told that if they criticize it, or, you know, that they are suddenly like they're a traitor.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a part of that. I mean, look,
that part is, there's truth to that part, though. There's definitely truth to that part. Like, I feel like it's going away. But there's definitely that, like, oh, if you say the capitalists or communists or whatever it was, right? I don't pay attention to the shit enough, but y'all know what I'm talking about. Like, oh, you supporting free healthcare, oh, you must be a capitalist and yada, yada, yada. Yo, you fucking, like, no, I'm just, like, we're already taking out all this money, like, out of our fucking job pensions for insurance. It'd be a lot cheaper to put that into the taxes instead if the government was worth a shit.
Obviously, they will criticize America when a Democrat is in charge. So there are things that they can identify that are bad. But it's also, we've probably talked about this. There was an old Al Franken book where, I think it was Al Franken, where he talked about love for your country and how liberals and conservatives do it different. And he used an analogy to like your mom having like a drinking problem. Like a lib loves their mom, so they do an intervention. They try to help her with her problem. A conservative loves their mom by saying, how dare you say my mom has a problem? Right. Like, it is a problem. You should do something about it. I think that they would.
I disagree. I think that they're both sides are just as bad. Like, they try to stir this, like, oh, you're a Democrat, oh, you suck, fuck you, oh, you fucking libtard, oh, I don't know what the fucking hateful word for Democrat is, or Republican, or whatever, but, like, they try to stir this fucking argument, instead of everybody just, if people would sit down and just talk, without trying to, like, stir up arguments, I bet you there'd be a lot less bullshit.
Would identify those things, but they also...
That's the reason why people should leave America right there. Like, you're seeing it. Like, right here is why people should leave this fucking country. Like, this is the...
They love the idea that... Basically, conservatives love anything that makes them automatically superior without effort. No. And the fact that you were born into the best country in the world, they love the idea of that, and they don't want to give up.
These people are doing the same thing. They're trying to act like, oh yeah, we're superior because we're woke. Like, no, you're doing the same shit you're shading them for, just on the different side. Like, fuck. And then the worst part is that people buy this garbage on both sides, and the process continues, and people don't even realize
that concept.
No, and I think they are.
And then the outside world wonders why Americans are like a giant fucking argument, like this shit. And again, we can go on the other side, and you see the same thing. I keep repeating that because I want it to get through people's head that just because I'm pointing out the flaws in this, don't mean I'm pure biased for the other side. Like, no, the other side does the same thing.
That to embrace the trash. They're like, nope, that's just part of it. That's part of our freedoms. All those dead children and all the mass shootings, that's just part of our freedoms. And it's just like,
well, like, no, the dead children and the mass shootings are not part of our freedoms. That's the flaw. Why we need to address certain things and ensure that retards who want to go shoot up schools and shoot up buildings don't get guns, while still preserving the rights for people who can prove they are of right mind to own a firearm to defend themselves and their family if they want to.
Is it though? Is it all worth it when the fireworks and the pig's butts get served on July 4th? Is it? Because that's like the one moment where I'm like, yeah, America, because I like fireworks. I'm like, oh, that's cool. And then it goes back to like, we could be so much better.
Yeah.
But that's
I liked it more.
And I bet you both sides agree with that. We could be so much better. That is so true.
For LA, where they're a little bit out of control.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. I really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube.
Honestly, I am disappointed by this video. I thought this was going to be like a bunch of people talking about their experiences, and I was going to like, get some amazing woken up, like, oh wow, this sucks, and like some things I never thought of. Instead, I got to hopefully show you guys on full display how the American news is so fucking crap. This is why I don't watch the news right here. Because you can go to the other side and you'll say the same thing, and it's crazy. But yo, I want you guys to like, comment, subscribe for not progressive, not fucking Democratic, just raw thoughts, in the words of Chris Webby. Shout out Chris Webby. But like, I want to see if I'm really curious on how the comments on this video are gonna be. Like, if you made it to the end, I want y'all to just, if you see, like, say, somebody who just completely missed what I was trying to say and getting angry. Now, speaking your opinion and getting angry are not the same thing. But if you catch somebody who's just pissed at me and just wants to beat me up, just comment just a clown emoji underneath their thing. Just because more comments I get, the better this video is going to be. And hopefully I can, like, wake some people up to how bad the news system is here. Either way, I'm out. Bye.